If you've ever been lied to, cheated, or watched someone walk away after ruining your life, this story is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe, and settle in, because this isn't just revenge. This is poetic justice, served ice cold. My name's Steve. And I used to be boring. Not the good kind of boring, dependable, stable, buttoned up. The kind of boring people trusted. I was an accountant. A creature of habit. I wore clean white shirts, drank the same $2 coffee every morning, and made sure every cent in my life was balanced. But boring didn't protect me. It didn't keep me safe. Because one day, boring turned into stupid. And stupid turned into broke. I'm talking homeless, showering at a truck stop, sleeping in a friend's dusty garage broke. All because of one man. Raymond Ellis. Or as he liked to be called, Ray. Slick. Smooth. Suave. The kind of guy who wore cologne that probably cost more than my weekly groceries. The first time I met him, he offered me a business card and a disarming smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He had the Rolex, the $1,000 smile, and an effortless charm that made me, a numbers guy, start believing in magic. But magic tricks always come with a cost. Ray was introduced to me by a colleague at a small business mixer. He said Ray was the guy for long-term investments, a boutique insurance broker who helped serious people build real retirement wealth. I wasn't flashy. I didn't need yachts or villas. I just wanted peace, early retirement, a small cabin in Montana maybe. A life without stress. Ray made me believe I could have it. Guaranteed return, he said. Triple your investment in 5 years. He said all the right things, showed me all the right documents, glossy brochures, customer testimonials, screenshots of account dashboards. Even a fake Better Business Bureau rating and a pitch deck that looked like it was made for Shark Tank. I was hesitant. But that's the thing about people like Ray, they don't push. They plant seeds. Let your own hopes water them. He gave me space to think about it. Then sent a follow-up email with a photo of himself next to a beach house in the Cayman Islands. The caption read, "Retirement isn't a dream, Steve. It's a plan." I bought in. $180,000. Every single dollar. My retirement savings, my emergency fund, my mother's life insurance payout, everything. I wired it into what I thought was a long-term life policy investment. And 3 months later, I got a letter that felt like it had teeth. The letter said I had underreported income. That my offshore account was flagged. But I didn't have an offshore account. I called Ray. No answer. I emailed. Nothing. I visited the office listed on his card. Empty. Like no one had ever been there. Then came the sinking feeling, the kind of cold realization that starts in your stomach and spreads through your spine. I'd been scammed. The insurance company. A shell. The policies. Forged. The websites and phone numbers. Smoke and mirrors. Even the people I spoke to, the customer service reps, were either AI voice emulators or actors on Fiverr. He'd created an entire ecosystem just to fleece people like me. The cops called it a complex financial scam. Translation: You're screwed, Steve. And I was. I had no home. No job. I couldn't even bring myself to tell my sister what had happened. The humiliation ate away at me every second. How could I have been so stupid? I was the numbers guy. The one who warned others about scams. I spent nights awake, hearing Ray's voice in my head. That smug tone. The way he said, "Trust me, Steve. You'll thank me in 5 years." Oh, I was going to thank him all right. But not in the way he expected. Turns out, Ray wasn't as smart as he thought. You see, when you build a spiderweb of lies that complex, you only need to leave one strand loose. And he did. He used his real name on a wire transfer from a burner LLC to a personal account in Puerto Rico. That's all I needed. Because the thing about accountants is this. We're relentless. We dig. We follow every penny until it screams. So I started digging. I traced his shell corporations, scraped public records, used every tool I had left. It took weeks. But the trail was there, faint, buried, but real. And it led to a yacht marina in San Juan, Puerto Rico. That was the moment I stopped being Steve the accountant. I became Steve the hunter. I sold my car. Cashed out my last $1,200. Bought a one-way flight to Puerto Rico and booked a bed in the cheapest hostel I could find, the kind where the walls were thinner than the sheets and roaches didn't even hide. Every morning, I walked the docks like a man on vacation, sunglasses on, notebook in hand, pretending to be a new money tech guy looking to buy a boat. And after 4 soul-scorching days, there he was. Ray. Shirtless. Drunk. Laughing on a catamaran. He had 2 women draped over him and a champagne bottle in hand. I watched him toast the sunset, living like a king. And I felt it. Not rage. Not grief. Focus. I didn't confront him. Not yet. Because you only get one shot. And I wanted him to choke on it. When I saw Ray on that catamaran, carefree, sunburnt, drunk on someone else's dreams, I didn't just feel angry. I felt clear. Everything in my life had been burned to the ground. All I had left were the ashes. So I figured, why not use them? I walked back to my grimy hostel that night with a new plan forming in my mind. A dangerous, probably illegal, incredibly risky plan. But it was the only one that made sense. I couldn't rely on the law. The cops had written me off. The system let Ray vanish into tropical sunsets while people like me ate dry cereal from the box and watched mildew grow on cinder block walls. So I decided I'd become someone Ray couldn't resist. Someone rich. Someone arrogant. Someone dumb. And that's how Jonah Blake was born. Jonah Blake was everything I wasn't. Where I was cautious, Jonah was bold. Where I hesitated, Jonah flashed his bank account. I spent the next 72 hours in a digital rabbit hole. In the corner of my hostel room, lit by the buzzing light of a dying bulb, I crafted an entire identity from scratch. Fake LinkedIn. Fake Crunchbase profile. Fake Twitter feed. Jonah Blake, founder of a startup called Cloud Rabbit, which had just been acquired for $34 million in a private equity buyout. I spun a thread of half-truths and tech jargon that would make any scammer drool. Exited at peak valuations. Looking to diversify holdings across Caribbean markets. Offshore sheltering advice welcome. Every sentence was bait. And Ray? Ray was a shark. I made sure my social profiles pinged from Puerto Rico. Geotagged just enough beach bars, marina lounges, and fancy-looking dishes. I created a couple of AI-generated selfies of me, sunglasses on, tropical shirt open, standing next to a fake Gulfstream jet. I used free apps to add sun flares, motion blur, filters. All just believable enough. And then I picked a bar, the kind of place where the mojitos cost more than my monthly groceries. Every night for 5 days, I sat at that bar, sipping water dressed up like a cocktail, watching. Waiting. And on night 6, right as I pretended to argue with a fake assistant over a Bluetooth call about where to park the damn crypto, I heard a voice from behind me. Smooth. Warm. Familiar. "Excuse me, are you Jonah Blake?" I turned around slowly, sunglasses on, letting my face stay blank for a beat too long. Ray smiled, his tan face stretching wide. "I saw your LinkedIn this morning. Cloud Rabbit, right? Huge exit. Big fan of what you did with decentralized routing nodes. God help me, he really did his homework." I gave him a lazy smirk. That was mostly my CTO's work. I just made the pitch decks and signed the papers. We chatted. I let him buy me a drink I didn't sip. He started flexing within 5 minutes. Told me about his exclusive offshore opportunities, his private network of Caribbean financiers, his Swiss partners. It was like watching a magician do the same tired trick again, only this time, I knew where the rabbit was hidden. Every lie he told me. I remembered telling them to myself 3 months ago, desperate to believe. I nodded, I laughed, I dropped buzzwords like capital repatriation and liquidity shields. He loved it. And just like that, the trap was set. Over the next week, I became Jonah. I met Ray for drinks, lunches, fake financial consultations. I borrowed a cheap sport coat and wore it with expensive sunglasses I found at a second-hand shop. Image was everything. I let him feel superior. I told him I was burnt out from tech, that I was too young to retire, too rich to care. I complained about taxes. I whined about inflation. I even staged a fake Zoom call in the hotel lobby where I yelled at my old board for not offering me equity on the cloud gaming IP. Ray was eating it up like candy-coated cocaine. By day 3, he was already pitching me. Ray leaned in one evening as we watched the sunset from a rooftop bar. "Jonah," he said, "I don't usually offer this kind of thing to people I've just met, but I like you. You remind me of me." Oh, the irony. Then he pulled out a sleek leather folder, opened it, and revealed exactly the kind of paperwork he used to destroy me. Fake prospectuses. Fabricated charts. Shell company diagrams. All dressed up in executive fonts and fake legalese. It was the same scam. Same structure. Different wrapper. He called it the Horizon Growth Strategy Fund. Said I could triple my investment in 12 months, tax-free, no risk. Just needed a minimum buy-in of $500,000 to start. I tapped my chin thoughtfully. Sounds interesting. Let me review everything. Then I said the words I knew would hook him deep. But I'd feel better wiring that kind of money in person. I have a guy in my network who handles my security protocols. I'd want to meet somewhere private. He smiled like a man who thought he just won the lottery. I smiled like a man who was about to detonate his world. While Ray went home to prepare his next con, I made the real call, to the Puerto Rican Financial Crimes Unit. I gave them everything. The fake company documents. Screenshots of our texts and emails. Photos of Ray on the yacht. Recordings of our conversations. And most importantly, the name of the hotel where we'd meet, and the exact time I told him I'd finalize the transfer. They were skeptical at first. Then I showed them the real wire trail I'd followed, the account he'd slipped up on. They told me they'd been looking for him. That he had open warrants in 3 states. Ray thought he was invisible. But I was about to make him seen. I booked a luxury suite at a 5-star hotel, using a prepaid card that barely scraped the deposit. I put on the best clothes I could fake, polished my $40 loafers until they looked like $400, and waited by the window. The envelope he brought was thick. He handed it to me like it was gospel. Inside was another stack of lies. He was wearing a white linen suit. Gold ring. And those snakeskin loafers that screamed, "I'm compensating." I asked if he wanted a drink. He nodded. I handed him a glass. And just as he popped the cork on a bottle of Veuve Clicquot, the door burst open. 3 agents. Guns drawn. Badges out. Ray dropped the glass. It shattered. Champagne sprayed across his pants. His face went white. Then red. Then panic. He lunged for the door, but they were faster. He didn't make it 2 steps. They pinned him face down. One read him his rights. Another picked up the folder of fake documents. And me? I sat down on the sofa, legs crossed, and watched it all happen like a man at the opera. It's strange, the things you remember. Not the big dramatic moments, but the small, stupid details. Like the way Ray's sunglasses flew off his head when the agents tackled him. Or the exact sound the champagne bottle made as it rolled across the marble floor, slow, hollow, anticlimactic. But what I remember most? His face. Not when the cuffs clicked. Not when the agents pulled him up off the ground. But just before, in that frozen second when our eyes met and he finally recognized me. Me. Steve. The boring accountant. The easy mark. His mouth twitched like he wanted to speak, maybe to plead, maybe to lie again, but he never got the chance. And I didn't say a word. Because there's nothing left to say to a man who sold you a fantasy and turned your life into a crater. I stayed in the hallway after they took him. Didn't want to be in the same room as him any longer. One of the agents, a stocky guy with tired eyes, handed me a clipboard. "You're the one who tipped us off." I nodded. He flipped through the file and whistled. "You've got more paperwork than most of our own cases. You a lawyer or something?" "Accountant," I said. He laughed. "Explains it. They held Ray overnight. Then extradited him back to the mainland, where charges were already waiting: wire fraud, identity theft, grand larceny, money laundering. 14 felonies in total. Turns out I wasn't his only victim. Not by a long shot. There was a retired teacher from Vermont. A widow in Florida. Even a small business couple who had remortgaged their bakery. He had taken over $3.2 million across 5 years. But somehow, no one had ever caught him. Until me. They asked me to testify. I didn't hesitate. It wasn't about vengeance anymore. It was about accountability. In court, Ray looked nothing like the man I met in Puerto Rico. No yacht tan. No tailored suits. Just an orange jumpsuit and sunken eyes. When I took the stand, I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just read the numbers. $180,000 stolen. $97,000 recovered. 27 months homeless. 18 panic attacks. 1 lost identity. Ray didn't look at me once. The judge sentenced him to 14 years in federal prison. No parole. No early release. I didn't cheer. I didn't even smile. But I exhaled. For the first time in almost 2 years, I felt my chest loosen, like I'd been holding my breath since the day I signed those forged insurance documents. The government was able to seize one of Ray's personal accounts in Puerto Rico, the one where he made his mistake. They recovered $97,000 of my original $180,000. Not everything. Not even half. But it was enough to breathe again. They also auctioned off his yacht and one of his luxury cars. The proceeds went into a victim restitution fund. A few months later, I got a check for another $12,800. I used it to get out of my friend's garage. I found a small one-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. But mine. I bought a mattress. Some real food. A second-hand desk. And I opened my laptop. Not to do accounting. Not yet. But to write. I started a blog. It was originally called The Burn File, a place to document what happened to me, so that maybe others could avoid the same fate. I didn't think anyone would read it. But they did. Emails started coming in from strangers, people who'd been scammed, who'd lost money, trust, marriages. People who never got justice. I told them what I knew, how to trace wire transfers, spot forged documents, flag shell corporations. I wrote about Ray, and people shared it. The post went viral. Not for the revenge. But for the way I wrote about surviving it. Within a year, the Burn File turned into a small non-profit. We help victims of financial scams figure out their options, collect evidence, report crimes. I started speaking at seminars. Partnering with cybersecurity firms. Funny thing. I became more powerful broke and rebuilding than I ever was when I had 6 figures in the bank. Every once in a while, maybe once a month, I open a folder on my laptop. It's password protected. Labeled simply, Closure. Inside is the photo I took that sunny Tuesday in Puerto Rico. Ray on the catamaran. Shirtless. Laughing. Holding champagne like he owned the world. And next to it, a second photo. From the hotel suite. Him, face down, shirt soaked, eyes wide in disbelief. 2 moments. 1 lie. 1 truth. And between them, the quiet, patient rage of a man who refused to stay broken. I'll never be the same person again. You don't get to go through something like that and walk away unchanged. I still triple-check my bank statements. I still freeze up sometimes when I see a man in a white linen suit. But I also know this. People like Ray count on silence. They count on shame. They bet on you staying quiet, humiliated, buried. I didn't give him that satisfaction. I stood up. I turned the game around. And in doing so, I found a better version of myself. Ray thought he'd gotten away. That I was just another idiot he could forget. But he left one breadcrumb, one stupid mistake, and that was enough. I followed him. I became someone he couldn't resist. And when he tried to scam me again, I had a front row seat to the moment his kingdom collapsed. Face down in champagne, cuffs on, caught like the coward he was. That moment was everything. Revenge doesn't always come with explosions. Sometimes it looks like patience. Persistence. Silence, until it's time to strike. And when justice finally arrives, it doesn't just take back what you lost. It gives you something more powerful, clarity. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and drop a comment. What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories of justice, karma, and the quiet strength of people who refuse to stay broken.